What's going on, everybody? This is Sean of Raw Select Music, and today I thought I would do essentially there are two lists combined together, and that's taking the records that I didn't get a chance to listen to in 2016 that I finally got around to in 2017, and taking the records that didn't quite make the cut for my top 5 favorite records and basically just make one big list. So this list of records is going to combine releases that came out in 2016 that I really enjoyed this year, and records that I really enjoyed that came out this year that just didn't quite make the cut for my top 5 favorite records of 2017. So there's actually quite a bit of music to go through, so rather than continue this long, rambly introduction, I'm just going to get into the music. This should be a lot of fun. Actually, just one more quick thing before I get into the albums. These records are going to be in no particular order, and I will just let you know whether or not they came out in 2016 or 2017. But in terms of like any favoritism or ranking or hierarchy, there's nothing like that going on. I'm just going to be speaking on the records that I thought were noteworthy of either this year or last year. That's it. Enough rambling. Let's just finally get into the records. Starting off this list is a record that I'm pretty sure actually came out in 2017, but the copyright on the back of it says 2016. And that's Oh No's Ultimate Breaks and Beats Volume 1. I really like this record, and when I listen to it, I always find myself enjoying it. There's some real creative sampling on it. I love the way that he uses the old school breaks and flips them into some really banging hip-hop instrumentals. The problem I have with this record is that I constantly keep forgetting that I own it, and part of it may just come from the fact that as a record to DJ with, it's not very useful. It's kind of a quiet pressing, and a lot of the tracks are so short that it's really hard to use as a record in a DJ event. But even still, every time that I go back and listen to it, I always find myself enjoying it. I still find myself smiling to it. I still think there is some real good hard-hitting instrumentals on it. But for whatever reason, I just keep forgetting about its existence. So I don't know what that says about the quality of the music on here, but it's still a solid album. I still recommend it. If you haven't checked out my review for it, go check that out. I give more detailed opinion of this record. But yeah, still, it's a highlight of, I guess, 2016 or 2017. Speaking of albums that I bought in 2017 that I forgot about, Doorbin Unit, which is the sequel to the Max Graef Band Dog album that came out last year. The stuff that I remember hearing from this album, I really like. This is an album that seems like it has a lot of potential. It's sort of electronic music meets krautrock, meets jazz, and a bunch of other genres thrown in for good measure. Yet, for whatever reason, I still have yet to sit down and really dig into this album. Could be that a lot of these tracks are pretty lengthy. They stretch somewhere, I think, on the low end, ones that aren't just sort of little interlude tracks. Some of the songs range between 10 to 13 minutes long. The stuff that I do like on here, and all the tracks are in German, so I'm not going to even try to pronounce any of them, I do really like and do really enjoy. Yet for whatever reason, it's not really an album that sticks out in my head. But the reason I am putting it on my highlights, this highlights video, is because I feel like it's an album that when I go back and listen to it in the future, that I will get a lot more enjoyment out of it and probably get a lot more appreciation out of it. So if you're into sort of experimental electronic music with a live band with a jazz feel and some krautrock thrown in for good measure. Yeah, Torben Unit, album worth checking out. I will probably be getting back to this at a later date, and I'm kind of just throwing it into this video as a reminder that I need to come back and listen to this album. Between 2016 and 2017, I became a huge fan of street corner music. And for me, 2016 was already a pretty strong year. If you go back and watch my Label Love video that I did talking about some of the releases that I picked up from street corner music, which I'll just show right here, rapid fire. I mean, all of these records are worth checking out. All of them were a highlight for me last year and this year. I can't recommend these albums enough if you're looking for good, quality, creative hip-hop, instrumental hip-hop records. But as good of a year as 2016 was for the label, I gotta say, I think 2017 was even better. So I picked up 3 street corner music records in 2017. And as much as I love all 3 of these records, only one made it into my top 5 favorite records of 2017. The other 2 just barely missed the cut, and those 2 are Foisey's Birds, which features some of the most head-turning oh shit sample chopping I've heard in a while, and the only reason it missed the top 5 is it still feels a little bit too much like a beat tape and doesn't really quite work as a full-on album listing. It's fun to listen to, I enjoy it, but it just doesn't feel cohesive as an artistic statement. And the other is Juicy the Emissary's Attention Kmart Choppers, which I really like anything that sort of takes one particular concept and runs through it for an entire album. So this is definitely the more cohesive of the 2, but it's just a little bit too short. But none of the instrumentals on here fall flat for me, and there's definitely, much like the Foisey album, no shortage of oh shit moments, particularly on this one, the one track that samples Big Girls Don't Cry. As I was recording it, I ended up rewinding the track and not realizing that I was still recording it. So every time that I go back and listen to it, I have to listen to myself rewinding the record, dropping the needle again, and hear basically the same reaction that I had the first time I listened to it. So both extremely solid and promising albums, beat collections from street corner music, just not quite up to par with the one record that made it into my top 5. But I can still highly recommend that anyone who's looking for some interesting, unique, and creative hip-hop instrumentals, cannot recommend these 2 guys enough. The only reason that I'm throwing this next one in here is because I really love one track on here, and that's Gabriel Garzon Montano's album, Jardin. The whole album's alright. I've kind of largely forgotten about it since I bought it at the beginning of the year and haven't really listened to it up until probably around summer. It's a little bit all over the place. It's largely sort of like pop R&B with sort of a singer-songwriter melancholy twist to it. So there's definitely a certain uniqueness and originality that's going on it. Some of the stuff just falls a little flat for me and hasn't really done anything for me. However, the one single from it, Crawl, is easily in my top 10 favorite tracks of this year. And for that reason alone, I thought I should highlight this. I can't really say that I wholly recommend the album. I might suggest that you check it out for yourself. But for that one track alone, I definitely think you should be checking out Gabriel's music. This is an album that I think I kind of go back and forth on a lot. I want to criticize it more for not being challenging enough, that it doesn't really sort of do anything outside of what I haven't already heard through listening to a lot of classic jazz albums. Yet, I kind of have to highlight it just because there aren't really many people that are doing this sort of soul jazz or post-bop jazz in 2017. So for that reason alone, I feel like the Jukka Escala Soul Trio album is worth highlighting. It's not a particularly engaging album, and it's actually an album that constantly keeps slipping my mind. Yet every time that I go back and listen to it, I'm like, hey, this is actually a pretty solid listen, and it's a pretty enjoyable listen. So if you're looking for the least offensive record of 2017, or if you're just looking for some solid soul jazz in 2017, hey, can't go wrong with the Jukka Escala. This is an album that I think really just needs no introduction, because I'm pretty sure everyone who is going to listen to it already listened to it in 2016, and quite honestly, I really wish that I picked it up in 2016, but sadly just didn't get around to it until this year. And that was Anderson .Paak and Knowledge's No Worries album. Yes, Lord! God, I hope I never do that again. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this album. I go back and forth between Anderson .Paak's Malibu and this album. I gotta say, I love both of them for different reasons. And well, the last time I listened to Malibu, I found myself enjoying that album a little bit more, which is sort of contradictory to what I said in my No Worries review. I have a feeling it's always constantly going to depend on my mood. Both albums are incredibly solid. I can't believe I waited this long to pick this up. If you haven't heard this album for any reason, if you know who Anderson .Paak is and you know who Knowledge are, and this is a match made in heaven, this is another 14 KT and Rose Spit, Rose Gold, Madlib and Freddie Gibbs, or Madlib and MF Doom type deal. Amazing beats, amazing vocal performance. You really just, I don't know what else to say about this record other than pick this shit up. This next record, when I first heard the track Paper Party off of it at the beginning of the year, got me really hyped for it, and then I bought the album, listened to it, sort of felt a little bit lukewarm, or was just sort of not really vibing to it when I first got it. But as I've listened to it a little bit more later this year, I just sort of really started to find what I enjoy about it, and that's S. Fidelity's A Safe Place to Be Naked. And it could basically be briefly summed up as chilled out trap beats. And before any of you completely write it off, because I know how a lot of people feel about trap, probably feel the same way that I do. I really like his use of trap beats, and I really think his sort of ambient, stoned, chilled out instrumentals that sort of play over the trap rhythms actually works a lot better than it sounds like it should. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit down-tempo, something to throw on into the background, something to just sort of vibe out to, yeah, S. Fidelity, Safe Place to Be Naked, it's a pretty good album. It's probably a pretty good album to listen to naked. Hands down, my favorite release that I've heard this year, and unfortunately it came out in 2016, so it wasn't eligible to make it into the top 5 of 2017. Man, that record goes to Channel the Spirits by The Comet Is Coming. I absolutely love everything about this album, and basically what this album, what these guys do is everything that I look for in music. They take a huge variety of different genres and sounds and combine them into one unique musical vision. I really want to go more in depth on this, but I just turned into a bumbly, rambly mess. So the last thing I'll say on this record is, in the future, I will definitely be doing a full review of this record. But yeah, this is easily my favorite record of the year. And if you haven't checked this out, do yourself a favor and definitely give this a listen. So those are my honorable mention records for 2017, plus a bunch of records that I wanted to get to last year, but didn't get around to this year, or in the case of the Comet Is Coming album, I found out about this year. Kind of wish that it came out this year so I could have included on the top 5 records of 2017. Let me know what you thought of this list, and also down in the comments, please let me know what were your top 5 or top 10 or top 20, whatever, favorite records of last year, because I know there was a whole slew of music that I didn't get to, or just was not on my radar at all. As always, the links for all the songs or albums that I talked about will be in my WordPress or Steemit blog, so head over there if you want to hear these albums for yourself. And shortly after this video goes up, my top 5 albums of 2017 video will come out, so look forward to that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm just going to end it there. Look forward to that top 5 favorite albums of 2017, because yeah, the best is still yet to come. Till then, peace out.